What is up, chat? How are you guys doing? What's up, DSK? What's up, DSK? How's it going? Raimundo. Nikki, nice of you to join. Hey, Didi. Glad you could join. Wait, is the camera a little bit weird today? I think the colors are off, no? What's up, Bigfoot? Nice of you to join. Hey, Petri. You're just trying to relax before work tomorrow? That's cool. Nothing wrong with the camera, right? Why does it look weird? Hold on. Let me try to change stuff. What's up, Losh? It looks a little bit foggy. Yeah. Hold on. Let me make some changes. No, that didn't help. What's going on? Maybe the brightness. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Exposure. What? Nope. I can change the FPS. Hello, hello, hello. The lens might be dirty. Oh, wait. I don't think so. Oh my god, you're right. There was something on the lens. Who said that? Who said that? Didi, you're a genius. There was something on the lens. Oh my god. Okay, I think it looks better now. Yeah. What's up, Katie? How did I do that? Oh. I guess now we know how to make it look like foggy. Just put some shit on the lens. Didi saved the day, yeah. All right. Oh my god, this is a finale. This is episode 70, and even 70. And it's the season finale. We've been doing this for what, a year and a half? It hasn't been that long? Oh my god. It seems very short. Last year it seemed like it just flew by. What's up, Empress Mermaid? Glad you could join. You like that dream sequence lighting? Well, now I can't replicate it. Maybe I should like put a little saliva on it. No. Doot, 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 doot. All right. I have this. Ooh. Crispy noodle snack. I think I ate this on stream before, but these are good. They're like raw noodles. See? Ooh. It really has flown by, hasn't it? A whole year just passed by before our very eyes. We were all strangers when this started. Yes, we were. Now we're all best friends. I think I made it 60 FPS, right? So I guess before we've always been using 30 FPS. The video, I mean, but now 60. Is it better? It seems to be better. Like my movement is smoother. Not that you need to see it anyways, but what's up, Regina? All right, guys. So season finale. Okay, we're at the end. We're at the end. Um, remember, after this, we're gonna go on with another book, and it's gonna be on Mondays, right? So, not tomorrow, but the Monday after this week, and yeah, it'll be a new time too, right? What did we agree on? Half an hour later, right? So instead of starting at 5:30, it'll be at 6, and it'll be on Mondays, okay? Pacific time, U.S. Pacific time. Yep, I've already got a story lined up, so don't you worry about that. You think my lens is still foggy on top? I don't think so. How do you figure? It seems fine. Yeah. All right. So what happened last week? So last week, Ling Hu Chong and Ying Ying, they just killed Zhou Langchan, and they're leaving the cave, right? And I think they've cut off the tendons on the left arm of Lin Pingzhi, so he's still inside the cave. He's disabled, I guess. I guess they just left him inside the cave. So as they're leaving the cave, the two get caught in a metal net by Yue Buchun, right? By Ling Hu Chong's master. Buchun accidentally grabs. Buchun wants to trap them so that he can get the medicine from Ying Ying, right? The medicine for his 3 corpse brain pill thing. So he catches them in a metal net, but then he accidentally grabs Ling Hu Chong's arm, and he gets his energy sucked out by Ling Hu Chong's technique, right? So as that's happening, as his energy is getting sucked out, Yilin arrives, and she uses this opportunity to stab Yue Buchun in the chest, I believe, ending this bastard's life. Okay, and the whole world cheered. Meanwhile, Run Wo Sing, he calls the headmasters of all of the 5 sword schools to come meet him at the mountain peak. Right, he wants to fight and defeat the 5 schools. So, um, so he's been calling all the headmasters of the 5 schools, but of course they're all dead. Right, all the headmasters are dead. Only Ling Hu Chong is alive. So only Ling Hu Chong shows up. And Run Wo Sing, seeing this, he's all super disappointed because he wanted to have a big fight, I guess. And then he takes this chance to invite Ling Hu Chong again to join the demon cult, but then Ling Hu Chong refuses, and Run Wo Sing gets all mad, and he says he wants to kill Ling Hu Chong's entire school, right, the entire Hangshan school. But then he doesn't want people to say that he's dishonorable and lured them there or whatever. So they agreed to meet the Hangshan school in 1 month to fight them, right? To fight to the death. And then I think we leave on a cliffhanger because Run Wo Sing is talking, and then he couldn't talk anymore, and then he feels blood coming out of his throat, and then that's where we left. How's that? What's up, Freddy? So that works much better with your schedule. Cool. Monday's cool. I know, Patrick. He planned for a gigantic fight, but then he had everything prepared, and then everyone, like, they all had the audacity to be dead. What the hell? Doot, 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 doot. What's up, Chi, the Yaoi god? We have a Yaoi god in here. You guys better watch out. All right. Okay, this is the last chapter, guys. Chapter 40. Harmony. All right. So remember, he has run while sing. He suddenly can't talk, and he has this blood bubbling up on his throat, and he feels dizzy, and the sunshine dazzled him. Okay. Ling Hu Chong went down the mountain in a drunken state, and it wasn't until midnight that he finally woke up. When he woke up, he discovered that he was lying in the wilderness with the Hangshan disciples sitting far away to guard him, and that he was also having a splitting headache. He was thinking that he wouldn't be able to see Ying Ying ever again, and his heart ached thinking about it. When their party finally arrived at Xianxing Peak on Mount Hangshan, they first went to Dingxian, Dingjing, and Dingyi Shitai's altar to report that they had taken their revenge. They anticipated the Sun Moon sect would attack any time, whether it was dawn or dusk. After the fighting finished, the Hangshan school would definitely be destroyed. They already foresaw this defeat a long time ago, and instead of worrying, they instead felt relief. Monk No Commandment and his wife, along with Yilin and Tianbo Guang, already met with them at the foot of the Mount Huashan, and they went back together to Mount Hangshan. Everyone was thinking that if they diligently practiced their martial arts, they still wouldn't be able to kill that many more people from the Sun Moon sect. So thinking that it was of no benefit to them, they simply didn't practice their sword art at all. Some people would read the scripture diligently every day, while the rest would play around the mountain. The Hangshan school originally had very strict commandments, and they had lessons day and night without any idle time. But these days, they were very relaxed. A few days had passed when they suddenly saw 10 monks walking up the Xianxing Peak. They were headed by the Shaolin Temple's abbot, Great Master Feng Zheng. Ling Hu Chong was in his living hut, drinking wine and singing songs when he suddenly heard Great Master Feng Zheng was coming. He couldn't help feeling startled and happy at the same time, and he quickly came out to welcome him. Great Master Feng Zheng saw both of his feet were bare, and he didn't even have time to put on his shoes. He smiled and said, "When the ancient people were in a hurry to welcome guests, they still had time to wear shoes, but Headmaster Ling Hu doesn't wear shoes to welcome us. Your sincerity is even more than those ancient people." Ling Hu Chong bowed to give his propriety. "When Great Master Feng Zheng comes, Ling Hu Chong has never welcomed you from afar. So I'm actually very afraid. Great Master Feng Zheng has also come." Feng Zheng smiled. Ling Hu Chong saw the remaining 8 monks all had white beards floating on their chins. When he inquired their names, he found out they were all reverend monks of the Feng generation. Ling Hu Chong welcomed all the reverend monks to enter his living hut, and they sat on the putuan. This living hut was originally Dingxian Shitai's place, and it had no dust around. But when Ling Hu Chong lived here, the whole place was filled with jugs of wine, wine bowls, and everywhere was a mess. Ling Hu Chong's face turned red, and he said, "It's messy, please don't blame me. I came here today to pay respect to the mountain and then to discuss an important matter," said a smiling Feng Zheng. "Headmaster Ling Hu, you don't need to be so polite. He waited for it to tick before continuing. I heard Headmaster Ling Hu didn't accept the vice chief position in the Sun Moon sect in order to protect the Hangshan school. You've also disregarded your own life by doing this, and you were also willing to abandon young Lady Run, who's such a good companion to you. Everyone from the orthodox path admires you very much for this. Ling Hu Chang was startled, and he thought, I wasn't willing because of Hangshan School, as well as not to implicate all of Wulin. I didn't allow the school's disciples to leak this matter out to prevent Shaolin and Wudang schools from coming to help and getting involved in the big fight and increasing the number of deaths and injuries. I didn't expect Great Master Feng Zhang to still manage to get the news. He then said, Great Master absurdly praised me, making me very ashamed. Junior and Sun Moon Sect's chief Run have a lot of grudges and disputes between us. I also lost young Lady Run's love. There's nothing I can do about this. Great Master, don't wrongly praise me. I don't deserve it. Chief Run wants to lead his men to give your honorable school trouble, Great Master Feng Zhang said. Right now, Songshan, Taishan, Hengshan, and Huashan schools have all deteriorated, and Hengshan School is standing by itself without asking for help from outside. Headmaster Ling Hu, you didn't send anyone to my humble temple to ask anyone to come. Could it be that all the monks in my Shaolin school are afraid of dying and want to preserve their lives, and they also don't care about justice and righteousness in Wulin? Ling Hu Chang stood up and replied, I wouldn't dare to assume that. In the past, Junior didn't check myself and got to know many people from the Sun Moon sect. Then all sorts of difficult matters came up because of this. Junior thinks a man must take responsibilities for what he has done. My heart is already restless since I've implicated the whole Hangshan school in this. How can I dare to startle Great Master and Priest Chongshu? If Shaolin and Wudang schools came to help and lost a lot of people, then it'll be my fault that even 10,000 deaths wouldn't even be able to repay. Headmaster Ling Hu, what you said was wrong, said a smiling Feng Zhang. The Devil Sect has wanted to destroy our Shaolin, Wudang, and 5 mountain sword schools since 100 years ago. At that time, I wasn't even born, so how does that have anything to do with Headmaster Ling Hu? Ling Hu Chang nodded. My deceased master often taught me that the demonical and the orthodox can't stand together. The Devil Sect and our orthodox schools have been fighting for years, and the enmity between both is very deep. Junior's understanding of this was shallow, and I thought both parties were able to yield a step and change for the better. Junior never knew that even though Chief Run and I have a deep origin, at the end we must still bear arms against each other. You said both parties yielding a step and change for the better. What you said is right, Feng Zhang said. Sun Moon Sect and our orthodox schools have been fighting for years. Actually, the reason for this wasn't something so great, that we want them all to die or they want us all to die. The only reason was because the leaders of both parties want to control Wulin by himself and wished the other party to be destroyed because of it. That day, when Chief Chongshu, Headmaster Ling Hu, and I talked at the Hanging Temple, we were there because of the worry that Songshan's Headmaster Zhuo wanted to merge the 5 mountains sword schools into one. We were afraid of his wild ambition in ruling Wulin by himself. He let out a long sigh when he spoke till here. He then continued, I heard Sun Moon Sect's chief has a motto, something like, Long live to chief, unify the Jianghu. Since this is already in his heart, how can Wulin have a day of peace? In Jianghu, each clan and each school has its own purpose, and they're all very different. Unify the Jianghu. This will never happen. Ling Hu Chang agreed with this and nodded. Great Master Abbot said it right. Chief Ren said that within a month he won't spare a dog or a bird on Mount Hangshan, Fang Zhang said. His words are like the mountain, and they couldn't be altered. Right now, the master hands from Shaolin, Wudang, Kunlun, Eimei, and Kongtong schools are already assembled at the foot of Mount Hangshan. Ah, Ling Hucheng was startled, and he jumped up. Really? All the school's seniors have come to help? I didn't know. I really should be punished. Since the Hangshan school knew that the devil sect would one day attack, no one there was feeling lucky, so they had not bothered putting up sentries and guards around the place, so much so that the sentries at the foot of the mountain had been withdrawn. Ling Hucheng continued. Reverend monks, please rest up here. Junior will lead my school's disciples down the mountain to welcome them. Fang Zhang shook his head. All the schools are on the same boat in this, and are helping each other to fight the enemy. There is no need for small talk. We've arranged everything. Yes, Ling Hucheng acknowledged, and he asked, when did Great Master Abbot find out that the Sun Moon sect wants to attack the Hangshan school? I received a letter from a senior and found out everything, Fang Zhang replied. Senior? Ling Hucheng was thinking that Great Master Fang Zhang's position in Wulin was already very high, so how could there be someone even more senior than him? Fang Zhang smiled and answered, This senior is a famous elder from the Huashan school. He once taught sword art to Headmaster Ling Hu. Grand Marshal Uncle Feng, Ling Hucheng excitedly said. Oh, the guy's still alive. The guy who taught him the Dugu 9 swords. It is, Senior Feng, Fang Zhang confirmed. Senior Feng dispatched 6 friends to Shaolin Temple to reveal what Headmaster Ling Hu said on top of the peak of the morning sun. These 6 friends speak in somewhat a roundabout manner and aren't very clear, so it's a little troublesome, and they also like to dispute what each other said. But after talking to them for a few hours and patiently listening to them, I finally understood. When he said till here, he couldn't help smiling. They're the Peach Valley 6 fairies? A smiling Ling Hucheng asked. Fang Zhang smiled. They are the Peach Valley 6 fairies. When Junior arrived at Huashan, I wanted to pay my respect to Grand Marshal Uncle Feng, Ling Hucheng happily told Fang Zhang. But many things kept coming up until I finally went down the mountain. From beginning to end, I didn't manage to see him to kowtow. I never thought he'd know everything. Senior Feng's conduct is like a divine dragon. You can see his head, but not his tail, Fang Zhang replied. He already conceals himself, living in Huashan, and when the Sun Moon sect was at Huashan going around without any fear, how could he just not care? Peach Valley 6 fairies were at Huashan to play around, and they were captured by Senior Feng and locked up for several days. Later, he ordered them to go to the Shaolin Temple to deliver the letter. Ling Hucheng thought, Peach Valley 6 fairies were captured by Grand Marshal Uncle Feng. They would definitely hide this matter and won't talk about it. But if I just talk at random about things, they'll finally reveal this. He then said, What does Grand Marshal Feng want us to do? Senior Feng was very modest in his words. He only said that he heard something unusual that needs to be told to me, Fang Zhang told him. He also said Headmaster Ling Hu is his beloved disciple, and how you resisted the Devil Sect's invitation on top of the peak of the morning sun. He really liked what he saw and wanted me to take care of you. Actually, Headmaster Ling Hu's martial art is far above mine. This word, take care. He was too serious. Ling Hucheng felt appreciative, and he bowed before saying, Great Master Abbot has been taking care of Junior more than once. You flatter me, Fang Zhang replied. When I found out about this, don't mention that Senior Feng ordered this. I would have done it myself, solely relying on the deep origin between your honorable school and my school. Also, I couldn't just put my hands in my sleeve on account of our friendship. Moreover, this matter concerns each school's survival. Once the Devil Sect destroyed Hangshan, do you think he'd let go of Shaolin and Wudang schools? That's why I immediately sent out an epistle notifying each school to assemble at Hangshan to fight to the death together against the Devil Sect. When Ling Huchong came down from the peak of the morning sun, that day he was feeling dejected. He saw the Sun Moon sect and felt that Hangshan school couldn't match them, so he was only waiting for the day that Ren Wo-sing would attack them. Then everyone from the Hangshan school would exert themselves in resisting and fight to the death. Even though there were people who offered the idea to ask for help from the Shaolin and Wudang schools, Ling Huchong asked them, even if Shaolin and Wudang schools come to help, can they stop the Devil Sect? That person immediately shut up. Ling Huchong also said, since there's no way to help Hangshan, why should we implicate Shaolin and Wudang's disciples and make a lot of them lose their lives here? In his heart, he actually didn't want to fight with Ren Wo-sing and Xiang Wenxian. Also, when his hope of marrying Ying Ying disappeared, he unwittingly tortured himself and felt his life in this world was no longer useful and that it was better if he died first. A pistol definition? A pistol would be a message, I believe. He sent out a message, like a letter. Oh, shit. Aha! A letter. Nice try, Nikki. Nice try. Can I make another video about the Dojoji temple? Yeah, I can. I'll think about it, okay? I'll put it on my notes. At this time, when he saw Feng Zheng receive Feng Qingyang's trust and came here to help, his spirit was roused, but he still had no interest in to really fight to the death against those people from the Sun Moon sect. At this time, when he saw Feng Zheng, Feng Zheng also said, Headmaster Ling Hu, Buddhists have mercy in their heart, and I'm not a brave person who would fight violently. If this matter can be settled in a friendly manner, then of course it's the best. But if we yield a step, then Ren Wo-sing would advance a step. We can't yield in this matter at all, or Chief Ren will annihilate each school from the orthodox path. Only if each of us kowtow to him and praise him with long live to sacred chief, unify the Jianghu, Amito Fu. In his long live to sacred chief, unify the Jianghu, he added the word Amito Fu. It was really comical, and Ling Huchong couldn't refrain from smiling. That's right, Junior only has to hear of that sacred chief, that long live to chief, unify the Jianghu, and I had goosebumps all over my body. Junior doesn't get drunk after drinking. I don't get drunk after drinking 30 bowls of wine, but to hear a lot of this long live to chief, unify the Jianghu, I couldn't help feeling dizzy and become drunk on the spot. Feng Zhang smiled. Their Sun Moon Sect's incantation is definitely very formidable. He paused for a tick before continuing. When Senior Feng was at the peak of the morning sun, he saw Headmaster Ling Hu getting dizzy, so he especially ordered the Peach Valley 6 fairies to bring over a secret formula for an internal energy technique, and he wanted me to give this to Headmaster Ling Hu. Oh, wait. The Peach Valley 6 fairies don't speak clearly, but when it came to telling me the inner energy technique, they became clear. It was really rare. I think Senior Feng must have forced them to memorize this until they're very familiar with it. Headmaster Ling Hu, please lead the way to the inner hall so I can impart to you this technique. Oh, I think this is a technique to cure his uh remember he has that energy sucking technique, but it has a fatal flaw, right? That he might die at some point because of that technique. So I think this is a way to fix that technique so that he doesn't die, I believe. Ling Huchong respectfully led Great Master Feng Zheng into a quiet room. This was the formula that Feng Qingyang had asked Feng Zheng to impart to him, so it was as if he had come personally to impart it to him. He immediately knelt in front of Feng Zheng and said, Grand Marshal Uncle Feng treats disciple with so much kindness. Feng Zheng didn't decline his modesty and received his respect. Senior Feng has a lot of expectation on Headmaster Ling Hu. He hopes you can practice diligently according to this technique. Yes, Ling Huchong replied. Disciple will do as ordered. Feng Zheng slowly read aloud the formula for the technique while Ling Huchong tried to memorize it. The formula wasn't that long. From beginning to the end, there were only around 1,000 words. When Feng Zheng finished reciting it, he wanted Ling Huchong to remember it. After some time, he recited it again. In total, he recited it 5 times. Ling Huchong was able to memorize it and recited it from the beginning to the end without mistake. Even though there's only around 1,000 words in this internal energy formula that Senior Feng is passing on, it is actually very profound, and it's not a small matter, Feng Zhang said. We're good friends. Please forgive me for speaking frankly. Headmaster Ling Hu's sword art is profound, but it seems you're not too good at internal energy technique. Junior only knows some trivial things about internal energy, Ling Hucheng replied. If Great Master doesn't mind, I still like to ask for some pointers. Feng Zhang nodded. Senior Feng's inner energy technique and Shaolin School's inner energy technique are quite different, but all martial arts in this world have the same goal, but use different approaches. The basic essence doesn't differ by too much. If Headmaster Ling Hu doesn't mind me being meddlesome, then I'll try to explain it. Could I make videos about ancient Chinese-Japanese friendships? You mean like their interactions? I think I already have some videos about their interactions, right? In the ancient days. But I'm sure as we go on with the history series, we'll have more of that. We'll have more of that stuff. Ling Huchong knew he was the current Wu Lin's number 1 or 2 master. Obtaining his advice was no different than getting Grand Marshal Uncle Feng's advice. That was why Grand Marshal Uncle Feng had imparted him this technique, so his internal energy could also be profound. Ling Huchong quickly bowed and said, Junior will respectfully listen. Junior will respectfully listen to Great Master's instructions. You flatter me, Feng Zhang replied. Then he immediately started to analyze the inner energy technique sentence by sentence. And he also told him all kinds of different things like breathing, energy movement, tuna, which is apparently a breathing method. Tuna? Okay. And the method to move the energy. Ling Huchong had learned the formula by heart, and he originally remembered it very well. But when Great Master Feng Zhang was analyzing the formula, only then did he realize how each sentence contained numerous refined principles. Ling Huchong had a high level of comprehension, but each sentence of this refined inner energy technique took him a long time to understand. It was good that Great Master Feng Zhang was there to explain it to him in detail, that he was able to take a peek into the marvelous realm of martial arts study that he had never experienced before. He let out a long sigh and said, Great Master Feng Zhang Jr. has been fearlessly going around Jianghu for the last For the last few years, it was because I didn't know how shallow my knowledge is. I'm really ashamed when thinking about it. Junior doesn't have much longer to live, and unable to practice the wonderful inner energy technique passed down by Grand Marshal Uncle Feng. But people in the old days had a saying. It's something like, hear the right way in the morning, then dying at night won't be too serious. Is that saying right? If a man in the morning hears the right way, he may die in the evening without regret. Feng Zheng corrected him. That's right, that's the saying, Ling Hucheng said. I once heard masters say it. Hearing great masters' advice today, it's really like a blind man being able to see. Even if I don't have any more time to practice it, I'm already happy. Our Orthodox schools have all assembled near Mount Hangshan, and they're protecting all the important places, Feng Zhang said. When the devil sect comes to attack, we'll all work together, and we won't lose. Headmaster Ling Hu, why are you being so pessimistic? This inner energy technique requires a few years to finish practicing it, but if you practice it for a day, then you'll get one day's benefit. If you practice it for a little bit, then you'll get a little bit's benefit. These next few days, there's no harm for the headmaster Ling Hu to start learning it. Take advantage of me disturbing your honorable mountain, and we can also study it together. Junior appreciates great master's kindness. Brother Chongshu should be arriving any moment now. Should we go out and take a look? Ling Hucheng quickly stood up and said, I have neglected Priest Chongshu and the others. He returned to the outside hall with Great Master Feng Zheng. The hall was already lit with candles. When the two of them were discussing martial arts, more than 6 hours had passed, and the sky had turned dark a long time ago. They saw 3 Taoists sitting on putuans, talking with Great Master Feng Sheng. One of these people was Priest Chongshu. When the 3 Taoists saw Feng Zheng and Ling Hucheng come out, they stood up together. Ling Hucheng paid his respects and said, Hangshan is in trouble, and we've received the priest's help. Everyone from my humble school really don't know how to repay this. Priest Chongshu quickly helped him up and smilingly replied, I arrived here some time ago. I heard that Great Master Abbot and little brother are inside studying inner energy technique, so I didn't dare to disturb you. Little brother has learned a wonderful inner energy technique. Once you've learned how to use it, then when Ren Walsing comes, you can try it out on him and teach him a lesson. This inner energy technique is very refined, Ling Hucheng said. How can I learn it in just a few days? I heard the seniors from Eimei, Kunlun, and Kongtong schools have all arrived. Should I invite them up and discuss our plan? What do the seniors think of this? Chongshu replied, They're hiding in secret to guard against that demon Ren from finding out. If you ask everyone to come up the mountain, then I'm afraid the information will be leaked out. When we came up the mountain, we also disguised ourselves. Otherwise, why didn't the disciples of my humble school announce us first? The moment when he first met Priest Chongshu appeared in Ling Hucheng's mind. At that time, Priest Chongshu disguised himself as an old man riding a donkey, and there were 2 other men following him. They were all actually masters from the Wudang school. Right now, as he observed the other priests, he recognized them to be the other 2 elders who competed sword with him on the Hubei road. Ling Hucheng bowed and smilingly said, Priests, your face-changing technique is very good. If Priest Chongshu didn't mention it, I wouldn't have figured it out. Those 2 priests disguised themselves as farmers at that time, one carrying firewood and the other carrying vegetables. Both were gasping for breath. Seemed like they were sick. At this time, they looked very healthy, and only their eyes could be recognized. Priest Chongshu pointed to the elder who carried the firewood. This is martial brother Qing Shu. He then pointed to the elder who carried the vegetable. This is my martial nephew. His Taoist name is Cheng Gao. The 4 of them smiled at each other. Qing Shu and Cheng Gao both said, Headmaster Ling Hu's sword art is very high. Ling Huchang replied modestly, I apologize for the offense. My martial brothers and martial nephews' sword art aren't very refined, but when they were young, they lived for more than 10 years in the western region and learned one special skill, Changshu said. One is an expert in hidden traps, and the other is an expert in bombs. Oh. We can use these guys, right? Those skills are very rare, Ling Huchang commented. Brother Ling Hu, Changshu said, I brought them here because I have another purpose. I'm hoping they can help us in doing one big thing. Ling Huchang didn't understand and blurted out, to do one big thing? I took the liberty to take one thing to your honorable mountain, Changshu answered. Brother Ling Hu, please, take a look. He had a free and easy personality, so he wasn't as restrained as Feng Zheng. That was why one called him Brother Ling Hu, and the other called him Headmaster Ling Hu. Ling Huchang felt that it was quite odd and wanted to see what he took out from his bosom. Changshu smiled and said, This item is actually not small. It doesn't fit in my bosom. Martial Brother Qingshu, ask them to come in. Qingshu acknowledged the order and went out. Not long after, he led 4 farmer-looking men to come in. Each person was barefooted, and each was carrying vegetables. Qingshu said, This is Headmaster Ling Hu, and Shaolin Temple's abbot. The 4 people bowed to give their respects. Ling Huchang knew they must have high positions in Wudang. He quickly returned their propriety. Take it out and install it, Qingshu ordered. The 4 men took some wrapped bundles from inside the vegetables they were carrying, and they opened the bundles, revealing many wooden strips, ironware, nails, and springs. These 4 people worked really fast, and they put those items together. A short time later, they finished making a grand chair. Ling Huchang was even more perplexed, pondering. This grand chair has so many springs. I wonder what it's used for. Could it be for practicing internal energy? You love how Ling Huchang drunkenly stumbled through this whole story and came out to be almost godly by the end. Yeah, true. He's like this. He's almost like the most powerful person in the world now, right? And if he learns this internal energy technique, he's probably gonna be like at the top. I don't know. IKEA. They bought him a chair from IKEA. Okay. After installing the chair, the 4 men took out 2 more wrapped bundles. These bundles contained the chair cushion and the chair cover, which they put on the grand chair. Inside the quiet hall, man, they put this thing together really fast. It takes me like half an hour to put together a freaking IKEA chair. Inside the quiet hall, glitters from the yellow brocade of the chair cover. Glitters from the yellow brocade of the chair cover suddenly dazzled their eyes. 9 golden dragons had been embroidered into the brocade, with the sun in the middle rising from the ocean. On the left, writings of glory to sacred chief, to the benefit of common people, were seen. On the right was the writing, Long live the chief, unify the Jianghu. Those 9 dragons had their claws brandished and teeth snarling, looking very much alive. The calligraphy on the writings was strong and very pleasing to the eyes. Chains of pearls, diamonds, and all sorts of other precious stones surrounded the letters. This humble and plain hall was covered by the lights from the jewels. Define brocade. Brocade is just cloth, I believe. So the yellow cloth of the chair cover. Like fabric. Or a tech company. Yeah, rich fabric woven with blah, 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 with a pattern. You have never shopped at IKEA? Why not? It had like it's pretty cool. You want like cheap furniture? Yeah. Not all of us have money, okay? Not all of us like can buy $100 chairs. Ling Huchong clapped to cheer as he thought of Chongshu saying that Qingshu was once in the western region learning to make hidden traps. He said, "When Chief Run sees this precious chair, he'll definitely sit in it. Then the traps in the chair will be sprung and take his life. Am I right?" Chongshu whispered back, "Oh, so it's a trap." Run Wolsing can respond really fast, and his movement is like lightning. Even if the chair has a trap, he'll feel something's not right and jump up immediately. He won't be able to injure him then. We won't be able to injure him then. This bottom of the chair has been installed with a fuse and a pack of explosives. Once he said this, the faces of Ling Huchong and all the monks from the Shaolin temple changed color. Feng Zhang prayed, "Ami to Fo." The benefit of this trap is that anyone can sit on it without anything happening, Chongshu explained. You need to sit for a while before the fuse is triggered. That Run Wolsing is a skeptical person, and he's also very careful. When he sees this kind of chair on the Xianxing Peak, he definitely won't sit in it straight away, and will get one of his subordinates to sit on it first. The covering on this chair has those gold dragons around the sun. There's also those "Long live the chief, unify the Jianghu" words, so anyone from the devil sect won't sit on it for too long. But once Run Wolsing sits on it, he won't give it up. Priest has considered this very thoroughly, Ling Huchang commented. Martial brother Ling Qingshu has also prepared something else, Chongshu said. If Run Wolsing doesn't sit and told people to take the cover and cushion off and even tear the chair apart to have a look, then the fuse will be triggered. Martial nephew Cheng Gao has brought 20,000 caddies of explosives to this precious mountain. It seems we won't be able to avoid ruining the scenery on this precious mountain. Li Hucheng felt dread in his heart. He thought, 20,000 caddies of explosives, so much gunpowder exploding, even jade will burn. If Chief Run is blown up, Ying Ying and Brother Xiang will be too. Changshu saw his face, looked unusual. The devil sect is saying they want to kill your honorable school. Once they've annihilated the Hangshan school, they'll attack Shaolin and Wudang. Will be ashes, and this big disaster will be hard to fix. We've set up this treacherous plan to repay Run Wolsing. Although it's very dangerous, we'll get to do away with this head demon and get to save tens of thousands of lives in Wulin. Okay. So if you try to take out, like if you try to take apart the chair, it'll also explode. Great Master Feng Zhang joined both his palms together. Ami to Fo. Our merciful Buddha must also defeat demons and slay devils to save our lives. Killing a man to save thousands of lives is a path of compassion and sorrow. When he said these words, he looked stately. All the monks and Taoists there stood up and joined their palms together while lowering their heads. They said in unison, Great Master Feng Zhang is right. Ling Hucheng also knew what Feng Zhang said was very reasonable. Sun Moon sect wanted to annihilate the Hangshan school, that even dogs and birds wouldn't be spared, while the schools from the orthodox path had planned to fry Run Wolsing to death. This was a matter of justice and righteousness, and no one could say that it wasn't, but his heart was quite unwilling to kill Run Wolsing. As to killing Xiang Wentian, he would rather die first. As to the life and death of Ying Ying, he wasn't worried. He had always regarded their lives intertwined together. and they will both die and live together, so there was nothing to worry about. He saw all of them were looking at him. He hummed for a little while and said, "Since things have come to this, the Sun Moon sect has forced us with no other option. I think Priest Chongshu's strategy will hurt the least people." "Brother Linghu said it right," Chongshu praised. "It hurts the least people. It's exactly what I was looking for." "Junior is young, and my knowledge is shallow," Ling Hucheng replied. "The matter on Hangshan today, I'd like to ask Great Master Feng Zheng and Priest Chongshu to preside over this big operation. Junior will lead my school's disciples and follow the plan." Chongshu laughed. I don't deserve it. You're the master on Hangshan. How can Brother Abbot and I, as guests, snatch the host position?" "This is not Junior modestly stepping back," Ling Hucheng explained. "I honestly like the two of you to handle it." "Headmaster Ling Hu is very modest," Feng Zhang said. "Brother Priest, you don't need to decline it either. The three of us will lead this big operation, but we'll let Brother Priest to issue the order." Chongshu said a few more modest words before finally agreeing. We've hidden people on all the passages going up the Mount Hangshan. When the devil sect comes to attack the mountain, we'll definitely hear of something. That day, when Brother Linghu led people to attack Shaolin Temple, we followed Zhuo Langchan's plan and left an empty city. Ling Huchang's face turned slightly red. Junior made a big disturbance. I'm still terrified by it. Changshu laughed. "I've never thought the enemy from the past would become today's friend. We can't use that empty city plan again, as it will raise Run Wolsing's suspicion. From my humble view, the whole Hangshan school should defend on top of the mountain, with dozens of people from the Shaolin and Wudang schools. You must understand that when the Devil Sect attacks, and if they can't see anyone from Shaolin and Wudang coming to help, then it would go against reason. This bastard, Run Wolsing, would be able to guess something is up." "That's right," Fang Zheng and Ling Hucheng replied in unison. "The rest of the schools like Kunlun, Eimei, and Kongtong don't need to reveal themselves," Chongshu went on. "They will hide inside the mountain caves. When the Devil Sect comes to attack, Hangshan, Shaolin, and Wudang schools will fight back, and the fight must look real. The people we send out must all be first-class fighters, and the more we kill, the better, while trying not to get harmed ourselves." Fang Zhang sighed. "The master hands from the devil sect are like the cloud and wait. The master hands from the devil sect are like the cloud, and they must have been preparing for this. This coming fight will have a lot of deaths and injuries from both sides. We'll look for some cliffs and prepare ropes. When we see that we're no longer their match, we'll use the ropes to go down to the valley and make it hard for the enemy to chase us," Chongshu said. "After Run Wolsing has gained his victory, then he'll see this precious chair. Of course he'll be complacent and sit on it. When the explosives are triggered, that old demon Run will find it impossible to escape without wings. We'll follow this with exploding the 32 landmines along the 8 routes going up Mount Hangshan. The Devil Sect will find no way to go down the mountain then." "32 landmines?" Ling Hucheng queried. "That's right," Chongshu answered. "Martial nephew Cheng Gao will go early tomorrow morning and go to the important spots of the route going up the Mount Hangshan. At each route, he's going to pick the 4 most important spots and bury the landmines there. When the landmines go off, there'll be no route going up and down the mountain. There'll be around 10,000 people from the Devil Sect going up Mount Hangshan, and all 10,000 of them will die of starvation. If 20,000 go up the mountain, then 20,000 will die of starvation. We've learned Zhuo Langzhan's old plan, but this time we won't let them escape from a tunnel." All right. He's got the plan all figured out. That time we were really lucky to escape Shaolin Temple, Ling Hu Chong chimed in. Then, as he thought about it, he uttered an, "Oh, Brother Ling Hu, now that you've learned of this plan, is there anything not right?" Chong Shu asked. Junior thinks that when Chief Run comes up the Mount Hangshan and sees that precious chair, he'll definitely be happy, but he'll be sure to suspect it, Ling Hu Chang replied. Why would the Hangshan school make this kind of chair and embroider the words, "Long live the chief, unify the Jianghu"? If this matter isn't made clear, then I think he probably wouldn't sit on it. I've also thought of this point, Zhang Shu answered. Actually, whether that demon head Ren sits or not on that chair isn't crucial. The other fuse we've hidden on that chair will blow it also. When he's being proud of himself, taking all the praises of "Long live the chief, unify the Jianghu," then this disaster will strike. Later on, this will only become a conversation topic in Wulin. Ling Wuchang nodded his head. Yes. So he just needs to be next to the chair or near the chair, right? And then it'll blow. Oh no, wait, no, that's not what that means. So there's something else on that chair. So he doesn't have to sit on it, but I think he has to touch it in some way, I guess, for it to blow. Marshal uncle, Priest Chung Gao interrupted. Disciple has an idea. I'm not sure if it's feasible. Say it out, Chung Shu said, smiling. Ask Great Master Abbot and Headmaster Ling Hu for their advice. I heard Headmaster Ling Hu and Chief Run's daughter had a marriage agreement. I heard Headmaster Ling Hu and Chief Run's daughter had a marriage agreement, but because the orthodox and the demonical can't be on the same road, the marriage was hindered, Cheng Gao said. If Headmaster Ling Hu sends 2 Hangshan disciples to meet Chief Run and says that on account of the young lady Run, you seek an especially skillful craftsman to make the precious chair for the chief to sit on, and that you're hoping the 2 parties would have a truce to discuss peace. It doesn't matter if Chief Run agrees or not, but once he comes up Mount Hangshan, he'll see this precious chair and won't suspect it anymore. Changshu clapped excitedly and said, This plan is wonderful. No! Ling Huchang shook his head. Changshu was startled and knew he had been embarrassed, so he asked, What's Brother Ling Hu's opinion? Chief Run wants to kill my Hangshan school, and I'll do my best to fight back and use wisdom to fight a strong enemy. Everything can be done, Ling Huchang replied. He's coming to kill us, and we're going to explode him, but I'll never say false words to deceive him. Oh no, he's too honest. And I like how he says we're going to explode him. He's coming to kill us, and we're going to explode him. Good, Chang Shu praised. Brother Ling Hu is frank, very admirable. Whatever we do, whether that demon head Run suspects us or not, he only has the intention of harming people to come up Mount Hangshan, so we're going to make him suffer. After that, they discussed the details on how to defend, how to fight, how to cover up their ambush, how to retreat, and how to blow up the landmines. Each of these points was decided on. Changshu was very meticulous, and he was afraid he might have underestimated the enemy, so he dispatched another person to back up the person responsible for blowing up the landmines. On dawn the next day, Ling Huchang guided them to look at the lay of the land. Qingshu and Cheng Gao selected the places to bury the landmines, prepared the fuses, and hid sentries to guard these places. Changshu and Ling Huchang chose 4 rugged spots to make their retreats. Fangzhang, Changshu, Ling Huchang, and Fangsheng would each guard 1 spot, and they wouldn't let any enemy come near them. When the defenders were exhausted, they would be let down by ropes towards the valley down below. The last people to get to the valley below would use their swords to cut the ropes and not let the enemies chase after them. On the same day that afternoon, 10 people from the Wudang school disguised themselves as farmers and wood gatherers. Under Qingshu's and Chenggao's directions, they planted the explosives. Hengshan school disciples guarded each entrance to the mountain to prevent idler from going up. Wait. Hengshan school's disciples guarded each entrance to the mountain to prevent idler from going up the mountain? What does that mean? Idle? That is what? Hengshan school's disciples guarded each entrance to the mountain to prevent idler from going up the mountain. Chat, what does that mean? I don't think they mean idler. I think that's a wrong word. Define it is not a is not the right word, I believe. Prevent either? But either what? That doesn't make sense either. Define it? That's not fair, Didi. We gotta figure out what this word is. Hengshan school disciples guarded each entrance to the mountain to prevent idler from going up the mountain. Well, an idler, I guess, would be a person who's idling. So a person who's like standing around doing nothing. That's an idler in my mind, but I don't know if that fits this sentence. Because if they're an idler, they're not going up the mountain, right? If they're idling, they're just standing around. They're not going up the mountain. What does that mean? Idler, okay. A habitually lazy person. To prevent idler? That doesn't make sense either, right? That's a wrong word, guys. A pulley that transmits no power but guides or tensions a belt or rope. Does that make sense? That doesn't make sense either. Couldn't they be idly going up the mountain? I guess. But wouldn't that be like idlers to prevent idlers from going up the mountain? I don't know. I think that's the wrong word that they used. The original text is trying to say unrelated person. Oh. Thanks, Kunshun. Okay, so instead of idler, it should be to prevent unrelated people from going up the mountain. Gotcha. So to prevent strangers, or just to prevent to prevent like the public, you know, like people who are not related to this whole attack from going up the mountain. That makes sense. Thanks, Kunshun. Alright, to protect against the Sun Moon sect from scouting the area and finding out all the secrets. After wait. So that wouldn't be a stranger then. That would be just a random person. I think the best word here would be like a random person. After 3 busy days, everything was ready, and they were now just waiting for the Sun Moon sect to come and attack. Counting the days, it had nearly been 1 month since they left Runwo Sing. on the peak of the morning sun. What that person said was certain to be fulfilled, and there would be no error in his decided time. In these last few days, Chongshu, Chengao, and the other people had been busy, while Linghu Chong had been idle instead. Every day he silently went through the inner energy technique Feng Zheng had imparted to him and practiced it. Oh. Is he going to be super powerful now? Every time he met something he didn't understand, he'd consult with Feng Zheng about it. On the afternoon of that day, Yihu, Yiqing, Yilin, Zheng'e, Qinjuan, and other female disciples were practicing sword at the sword training hall, while Linghu Chong was at the side giving advices. He saw that even though Qinjuan was still young, she quite understood the essence of the sword art. He praised, "Martial's sister Qin is very bright. You already had the knack for this move," but he hadn't finished saying the words when he suddenly felt a wave of pain in his dantian region and immediately sat down. The disciples were all startled, and they quickly rushed forward to help him up. They said in unison, "What happened?" Ling Huchong knew the different types of internal energies in his body were coming out again, and the pain was so unbearable that he couldn't even speak. The disciples were all in confusion when suddenly a flapping sound and two pigeons came flying in from the window. "Aiyo!" they cried out in unison. Hangshan School kept many a letter pigeons. When Dingjing Shutai was at Fujian, and when Dingxian and Dingjing Shutai were surrounded at the Dragon Spring Sword Forging Valley, they had dispatched these letter pigeons to ask for help. Now the two letter pigeons flying through the window were from the school's disciples who were guarding at the bottom of the mountain, and there were red paint daubed at their backs. With a glance, they knew the assault from the Sun Moon sect had arrived. Oh, they're coming. They're coming. Since the great master Feng Zheng and priest Chongshu arrived at Mount Hangshan, the disciples had been strong helpers and arrived, and everything was already prepared, and they were relieved. But unexpectedly, during this urgent time, Linghu Chong had fallen sick. Yiqing called out, "Yichu, Yiwen, Martial Sisters, go report to Great Master Feng Zheng and Priest Chongshu." Both of them acknowledged the order and went. Yiqing also said, "Martial Sister Yihe, please ring the bell." Yihe nodded her head a few times before flying out of the hall to go towards the bell tower. Sounds of tung, tung. Oh, we have a sound. Wait. Sounds of were heard. 3 long ringings, followed by 2 short ringings, were heard coming from the bell tower, the sound traversing throughout the peak. Shortly after that, the bells from Tongyuan Valley, Hanging Temple, Black Dragon Pass, and other big bells from the other temples were also heard. Great Master Feng Zheng had left an order beforehand on the method to alert the coming of the enemy. The bell was supposed to be rung with 3 long rings, followed by 2 short rings. But the ringing of the bell must be slow and leisurely, and must not appear panicked and frightened. However, with Yihu being completely worried, and even though there's the word peace in her Buddhist name, her behavior was anything but peaceful, and the sound of the bell still showed her worry and impatience. Hangshan School, Shaolin School, and Wudang School quickly moved according to the pre-arranged plan. Each of them moved to their spots to prepare in welcoming the enemy. In order to lower the casualties, no guard was placed in the passages between the foot of the mountain and the top of the Shanxing Peak, and the gate was opened wide to let the enemy come through. Once the enemy arrived at the top of the peak, then the fighting will be joined. After the bell sounds stopped, the chirpings of birds had become quiet around the peak. The experts from Kunlun, Eimei, and Kongtong schools all hid below the peak, waiting for the Devil Sect people to all go up the peak. Once they received the order, they will cut off the retreat of the Devil Sect. To protect the secret plan, Chongshu didn't tell everyone of the landmines buried on the mountain passages. The Devil Sect had a vast influence, and for them to have spies within the disciples of Kunlun or the other schools would not be too surprising. Ling Hucheng heard the bells, and he knew the Sun Moon Sect had come to attack them, but his stomach was like being slashed and stabbed by millions of sabers. The pain was enveloping his belly, and it was churning underneath. Yilin and Qin Chuan were frightened till their faces were colorless, and they didn't know what to do. "We'll help Headmaster to go to Wuxia Convent," Yiqing ordered. "Then we'll carry out Shaolin Abbot's and Priest Chongshu's plan." Yu Sao and another old nun put their hands underneath him, half supporting, half lifting. They carried him to the Wuxia Convent. They had just arrived at the convent's door when they heard the thundering sound of firecrackers going off, followed by the cries of the horns and the booming of the drums. As expected, the Sun Moon Sect had grandly carried out the operation to attack the mountain. Feng Zheng and Chongshu had found out about Ling Hucheng's illness, and they rushed out of the convent. Chongshu said, "Brother Ling Hu, don't worry. I've already ordered Martial Brother Qingshu to cover Wudang School's retreat. I'll be covering your Honorable School's retreat." Ling Hucheng nodded his thanks. Feng Zhang said, "Headmaster Ling Hu, retreat down the valley first, to avoid any negligence." "No, absolutely not," Ling Hucheng hastily replied. Bring my sword." Chongshu advised him further, but Ling Hucheng was unmoved. Suddenly, the sounds of drums and horns ceased, followed by thundering voices calling out, "Long live the sacred chief! Unify the Jianghu!" From this sound, it can be gathered there were at least 4,000 to 5,000 people. Feng Zheng, Chongshu, and Ling Hucheng looked at each other and smiled. Jin Zhuan brought Ling Hucheng's sword over to him and presented it. Ling Hucheng extended his hand, wishing to take it, but his right hand was continuously shaking, and he couldn't hold it. Jin Zhuan hung the sword on his waist. Suddenly, they heard a very pleasing sona. Sound rose up. Sona is a Chinese wind instrument. It was definitely not the sound of battle. In unison, a few people said it. Luckily, the translator said it right here, what sona is. Or I wouldn't have known. In unison, a few people said in bright, clear voices, "Sun Moon Sect's sacred chief wishes to go up the Xianxing Peak to meet Hangshan School's headmaster Ling Hu." These words had been spoken by the Sun Moon Sect's elders. "The Sun Moon Sect is giving their propriety first before fighting," Feng Zhang said. "We also can't be too petty. Headmaster Ling Hu, what do you think of letting them come up to the peak?" Ling Hucheng nodded his head a few times. At this time, a wave of pain had again assaulted his stomach. Feng Zhang saw his face full of cold perspiration, and he said, "Headmaster Ling Hu, the pain in your dantian is already excruciating. There's no harm in using the inner energy method that Senior Feng imparted. Add it and revolve it. See what happens." The different types of inner energies in Ling Hucheng's body were conflicting and clashing about, and if he adds more to it and revolve it, that would be no different than using a saber to injure himself. It would be like adding pain on top of pain, but the pain was already to the extreme, and there was no thought of the consequence of doing this. He moved the energy according to the method and revolved it. Shouldn't that be rotated it? As expected, the energies clashed, and the pain was even more excruciating than before. But after revolving it for a few times, those inner energies were back flowing like before. They flowed and converged like there was a track to flow. Even though the pain was like the old time, it wasn't clashing and striking chaotically anymore. He knew the place where the clashes happened now. Fang Zhang said slowly, Hongshan School Headmaster Ling Hu, Wudang School Headmaster Priest Chong Shu, Shaolin School Headmaster Feng Zhang. We await, respectfully, for the Sun Moon Sect Honorable Chief Run's arrival. His voice wasn't loud, and it was said slowly, but it still traveled very far. Ling Hucheng was effective in moving his inner energy. He now sat cross-legged, eyes observing the nose observing the heart. His left hand touched his chest, his right hand embraced his stomach, following the method that Feng Zhang had imparted to him, which he had practiced earlier. He had only learned this technique for a few days, and even though Feng Zhang had spoken to him every day in detail about it, his practice of it was still very shallow. But under the guidance of this method right now, these different inner energies were unexpectedly able to gradually merge. He didn't dare to be negligent, so with rapt attention, he revolved his inner energy. In the beginning, he was still able to hear the sound of drums and horns, but at the end, he couldn't even hear anything. Feng Zhang smiled, seeing Ling Hucheng was concentrating on practicing martial arts. He heard the drums were thundering, and the Sun Moon Sect people shouted, Sun Moon Sect, cultured and kind warrior, benefiting the common people, the honorable sacred chief, is going up Hangshan. After some time, the sound of drums gradually got nearer. The path coming up to Xianxing Peak was very long, and although the Sun Moon Sect people walked really fast, after some time the sound of drums had only arrived at the middle of the mountain. The Orthodox sect warriors hiding around the Mount Hangshan were all secretly scolding. Rotten honorable chief, still not dead yet. What the heck are you doing making lots of noise around here? The people who were to welcome the enemy had all their hearts bouncing wildly. Each of them had originally predicted the Devil's Sect people would kill their way up, and they would immediately engage in a fierce battle. After killing a score of the sect's people and waiting for more enemies to arrive on top and becoming even stronger, they would then escape down the valley. But they never expected Runwal Singh to act like an emperor going on a tour and making a lot of noise as he came up to the peak. It was inappropriate for them to start their operation, but they had to detain their hearts harder from doing so. After a long time, Ling Hucheng felt the various inner energies in his Dantian region had slowly been pushed down, and the pain was gradually decreasing. His heart calmed, and he immediately thought, Chief Run wants to come up to the peak? Ah, Ling Hucheng gasped, and he jumped up. Feeling better? Feng Zhang asked, smiling. Fighting yet? Ling Hucheng queried. Not yet. Very good, Ling Hucheng said. With a hiss, he drew his sword. But he saw Feng Zhang and Chong Shu were not holding any weapons, while Yi He, Yi Qing, and the other disciples were lining up in rows in front of the Wuxia convent, quietly in Hangshan school formation, with their swords still sheathed and hanging on their waists. He guessed that Runwal Singh hadn't arrived on the mountaintop yet, and that he had been too anxious, so he laughed aloud and put his sword back into the scabbard. He then heard the sound of sona and drums ceased, and the sounds of flute and hu chin rose up. He thought, Chief Run is so pretentious, coming up the mountain personally, accompanied with live music. The more pretentious he was, the funnier Ling Hucheng thought it was. Define score? Like a lot of people? Wait, where's score? I have a feeling a score. Score is 20 years, I believe. 4 scores and 7 years ago. Score is 20 years. I hope I'm right. Dun, dun. Yeah, a group or set of 20, or about 20. Nice try, Katie. Nice try. As the music played on, two lines of the Sun Moon sect were seen coming up the peak, pair by pair. Their eyes were dazzled, seeing the sex's people wearing brand new, dark green, full bodied gowns and white belts around their waists. The 40 people in front were each carrying a tray with a satin cloth on top, which held something. Unexpectedly, these 40 people weren't carrying any sabers or swords on their waists. Once the 40 people reached the peak, they stopped far away. They were followed by a group of 200 people. Wait. They were followed by a group of 200 musicians who were also wearing full-bodied gowns and continuously playing their flutes. The ones coming up after them were trumpeters, drummers, big and small gongs, cymbals and bells, and all other types of musicians. Ling Hucheng found this interesting, and he thought, when we fight, there'll be gongs and drums to accompany us. Isn't this just like fighting on a stage play? I said 20 years, not 20 by itself. Did I say 20 years? I meant 20 people. Come on. You got to give me that. I meant 20 people. Cuz then when you if you say a score of people, that doesn't mean like a 20-year people, right? That doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean. You got to give me that W. Don't forget to take a break. Oh yeah, in a bit. In a couple minutes. I said years. I meant people. I meant people. Guys. The music continued. Blah, 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 blah. Wait, where are we? The music continued to play as groups after groups of Sun Moon sect people came up. These people seemed to be arranged according to the halls they belonged to, with the different colored gowns that they were wearing. Yellow gown, green gown, blue gown, black gown, white gown. Each group was beautifully dressed like they were competing in a show. Their gowns were still new, and each person was wearing a white belt tied to their waists. The people who had come up the peak numbered around 3 to 4,000. Changshu thought, they're not organized yet. We can take advantage of this and start killing them. This will be to our advantage. But they're playing a trick, wanting to give propriety first before fighting. If we move now, we will be very rude. He then saw Ling Hucheng was chuckling without care, and Fang Zheng was staring but not looking, and maintaining his composure. He thought, if I seem frightened, it's because my meditation isn't enough. After the sect's people stood at their places, 10 elders came up. With 5 to each side, they stood to the left and right. The music suddenly stopped, and the 10 elders said in unison, Sun Moon sect, cultured and kind warrior, benefiting the common people, the sacred chief has arrived. Ugh. Okay, alright. Be right back. Give me 5 minutes, alright? Be right back. Yeah, that song was way too short. Alright, we're back. So the Sun Moon sect has just arrived. Let's see what happens. A big blue sedan chair was carried up the peak. This sedan chair was being carried by 16 porters. its movements fast and steady. The whole sedan chair looked like as if it was a master of Qinggong as it floated up to the peak, and the 16 porters carrying it didn't look weak in martial arts. Ling Hucheng took a look and saw Zhu Xianchu, Huang Boliu, and Ji Wuxia were among the porters. He was thinking if it wasn't for the fact that old man was short, then he would have been carrying the sedan chair with Zhu Qianchu and be one of the porters. Ling Hucheng's anger surged up, and he thought, Zhu Qianchu is a hero from this generation, but Chief Run forced him to do such a lowly thing, treating the world's heroes like slaves. Of course, people will be angry. There was a person on the left and right sides of the blue sedan chair. On the left side was Xiang Wentian, while on the right side was an old man. This old man looked very familiar. Ling Hucheng started as he recognized that the person to be the... Ling Hucheng started as he recognized that person to be the elder who taught him how to play Qin in Luoyang City. He was the elder Bamboo Green. Oh, we haven't seen him for a while. This person called Ying Ying as auntie, causing him to mistakenly take Ying Ying to be an old granny. After he left Luoyang, he hadn't seen him again, but today he was following Ren Wuxia up Xianxing Peak. His heart was thumping as he thought, why don't I see Ying Ying? Suddenly he thought of something and saw the white belts tied around the Sun Moon sect people like they were in mourning. Could Ying Ying have seen her father leading his men to attack Hangshan, and after painstakingly admonished him not to do so, finally killed herself? Ling Hucheng felt blood rushing up in his chest, and his dantian felt painful. All he wanted to do right now was to rush forward and ask Xiang Wentian, but thinking of Run Wuxia inside the sedan chair, he stopped. Even though there were thousands of people gathered on Xianxing Peak, there was no noise from the birds. That sedan chair finally stopped, and everyone shot a look at it, waiting for Run Wuxia to come out. All of a sudden, they heard laughter coming from inside the Wuxia convent. A person in a big voice said, Quickly make way, give me a sit. Another person said, don't fight, from biggest to smallest, we'll all take turns. Oh, I know who this is. Quickly make way, give me a sit. Another person said, don't fight, from biggest to smallest, we'll take turns sitting on this 9 dragons chair. They were the Peach Tree Flower Fairies and Peach Tree Branch Fairies' voices. Feng Zhang, Chongshu, and Ling Hucheng were startled till their faces changed color. They didn't know when the Peach Valley 6 fairies broke into the Wuxia convent, and they were now fighting to sit on the 9-dragon chair. If they sit for too long, the fuse would be triggered, and wouldn't that be very bad? Chongshu quickly rushed into the convent. Quickly, get up! Chongshu shouted. This precious chair belongs to the Sun Moon Sect's sacred chief Run. You can't sit on it. Peach Valley 6 fairies' voices bellowed out from inside the convent. Why can't we sit on it? We want to sit. Quickly, get up, let me sit. This chair is very comfortable, very soft. It's like sitting on a fatso's buttocks. You've sit on a fatso's buttocks before? Ling Hucheng knew that the Peach Valley 6 fairies were fighting to sit on the 9-dragon precious chair. One sat for a while, then another one would sit for a while. At the end, they would trigger the fuse and explode the tens of thousands of caddies of explosives buried underneath the Wuxia convent. Then the Sun Moon sect people, Shaolin, Wudang, and Hangshan school heroes on the Xianxing Peak would all be burnt. In the beginning, he wanted to rush inside to put a stop to them, but he didn't know how to do it, and it seemed his heart was hoping that the explosives would explode. Since Ying Ying had died, well, he jumped to conclusions there. Since Ying Ying had died, he didn't want to live anymore. If everyone could die in a wink of an eye, how could it not be a clean death? With a glance, he suddenly saw Yilin's pair of smart eyes were looking at him. But as soon as their eyes connected, she immediately avoided her gaze. Ling Hucheng thought, little Marshall's sister Yilin is still so young, but she'll also be burnt to dust. Wouldn't that be a pity? But in this world, who doesn't die? Even if everyone today is being peaceful and has no enmity with each other, wouldn't everyone's here still turn to bones 100 years from now? Then he heard the Peach Valley 6 fairies were still quarreling continuously. You've already sit twice. I haven't even sit once on it yet. The first time I sat on it, I was pulled down, so it doesn't count. I have an idea. We'll all sit on it. See if it fits or not. Wonderful, wonderful. Crowd together. Ha 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 ha. You sit first. You sit first. I'll sit on top. The oldest sit on top. The youngest sit at the bottom. No, the oldest sit first. The younger you are, the higher you should sit. Great Master Feng Zhang saw the crisis was going to happen soon, but he also couldn't say anything that would reveal the trap. He quickly walked inside the hall and loudly said, "Honorable guests are outside. Don't quarrel. Be quiet." These 2 words, "be quiet," were said with the backing of Shaolin School's paramount internal energy martial art called Roar of the Iron Lion, and it was aimed at the Peach Valley 6 fairies. Priest Chongshu felt dizzy and was dangerously close to falling down. The Peach Valley 6 fairies lost consciousness at the same time. Whoa! He had like a banshee shout that made them all lose consciousness. Chongshu was happy and his hands moved like the wind to lift the 2 people sitting on the chair. This was followed by sealing the acupoints of those 6 people and throwing them beneath the Guan Yin's offering table. He then stooped down beside the chair and heard no unusual noise. His hands and legs felt weak, and his head was perspiring heavily. If Feng Zhang had come in just a bit earlier, then the fuse would have been triggered, and everyone would have died. Whew. Crisis averted. Chongshu and Feng Zhang walked back out, shoulder to shoulder, and said, "Chief Run, please come in for some tea." But the screen on that sedan chair remained motionless, and there was no movement from inside the sedan chair as well. Chongshu was indignant as he thought, "This old demon head thinks himself so highly. Great Master Feng Zhang, Headmaster Ling Hu, and I currently have the highest positions in Wulin. We're all standing here waiting, but you don't even pay attention to us." If not for that 9-dragon chair having a trap in it, he would have unsheathed his sword, opened up the sedan chair's curtain, and fought with Run Wo Xing. He said it again one more time, but there was still no answer coming from inside the sedan chair. Xiang Wenqian bent his waist and put his ear beside the sedan chair. He nodded a few times, listening to the directions from the person inside it. Standing back up, he said, "My humble sect, Chief Run, said, Shaolin Temple, Great Master Feng Zhang, and Wudang Priest Chongshu are seniors in Wulin, and that he doesn't deserve for the 2 seniors to be waiting here for him. Later, he will personally go to Shaolin and Wudang to express his thanks and apology." Xiang Wenqian also said, "Chief Run said he has come to Mount Hangshan today especially to meet Headmaster Ling Hu. He'd like to ask only Headmaster Ling Hu to be in the convent to meet him." When he finished speaking, he gestured with his hand, and the 16 porters carried the sedan chair into the convent and put it down inside the Guan Yin Hall. Xiang Wenqian and Elder Bamboo Green accompanied the sedan chair inside, but they came back out with the porters, leaving the chair alone inside the convent. Chongshu thought, "Something's up here. I wonder what kind of trap is inside that sedan chair." He looked at Feng Zhang and Ling Huchong. Feng Zhang wasn't sure what to do, and his face was looking bewildered. "Since Chief Run only wants to meet Junior alone, then please wait here," Ling Huchong said. Chongshu whispered, "Be careful." Ling Huchong nodded and strode inside the convent. That Wuxia convent was just a little room, and if someone spoke loudly in the Guan Yin Hall, then people outside would be able to hear them clearly. "Junior Ling Huchong pays my respect to Chief Run," Ling Huchong greeted, but he didn't hear Run Wo Xing say anything. Ling Huchong suddenly gasped in surprise. Chongshu was startled as he was afraid Ling Huchong had fallen under Run Sing's violent hands. He took a step, wanting to enter the convent and help, but he thought, Brother Ling Hu's sword art is excellent and unmatched in this world. He entered the convent with a sword, so that demon head Ren couldn't have possibly killed him with a stab. If he had already fallen under his violent hands, I would still be too late coming in to help. If that old demon head Ren hasn't killed Brother Linghu, that'll be best. But if Brother Linghu has fallen under his hands, then this demon head will be alone inside the Guanyin Hall, and he'll definitely sit on that 9-dragon chair. And if I go inside, then I'd ruin everything. In that moment, he felt agitated and pondered, that old demon head Ren might be sitting on that chair right now. In just a moment, the fuse will be triggered, and this Xianxing Peak will be destroyed. If I quickly run away at this time like a coward, Xian Wentian will see it and will immediately alert him, and then we'll be defeated. But if it explodes now, no matter how fast I move, I still won't be able to escape. So what should I do? He had originally calculated everything in detail. When the Sun Moon sect came up the peak to attack, how they would fight, how to retreat, everything had been predicted. That when Ren Wuxia sits down on the 9 dragons chair, everyone from Shaolin, Wudang, and Hengshan schools would have retreated down the valley. They never expected the Sun Moon sect would come up without fighting, and instead give their propriety first before fighting. Moreover, Ren Wuxia wanted to meet Ling Huchong alone inside the convent. Everything that he had predicted had now changed. Even though he was very smart, he was at a loss for ideas at the moment. Great Master Feng Zhang also knew the situation was urgent, and he was also worried for Ling Huchong's safety. But his cultivation was already very deep, and his mind was very clear. He felt life and death, glory and disgrace, bad and good luck, victory and defeat were not that big a thing. People strive to do things, but whether it succeeds or not, it is all decided by heaven. Whatever the conclusion would be, it all depends on each person's fate and can't be forced. That was why, even though his heart didn't feel right, he looked indifferent. If the explosives really exploded and his bone was turned to dust, only this leather sack would be lost. So what was there to be afraid of? The explosives buried underneath the 9 dragons chair was a secret. Besides Feng Zhang, Chongshu, and Ling Huchong, the people who buried the explosives, like Qingxu and Gao, were all at the waist of the mountain, waiting for the explosives at the peak to explode before they explode the landmines. No one else on the Xianxing Peak knew of the situation. Shaolin, Wudang, and Hengshan schools were all waiting for Ren Wuxia and Ling Huchong inside the Wuxia convent to finish speaking before they would move and fight against the people from the Sun Moon sect. Chongshu abided his time. He saw no movement inside the convent, and there was no noise coming out from there as well. Moving his internal energy, he tried listening to any noise. Indistinctly, he heard like Ling Huchong was whispering something. He felt happy and thought, so, Brother Linghu is safe and sound. And as his mind was divided, his internal energy wasn't as pure anymore, and he couldn't hear anything temporarily. But he was worried that what he heard was just his own wishful thinking, and that his ears had heard what he wanted to hear, and that the voice wasn't necessarily Ling Huchong's. Otherwise, why couldn't he hear what Ling Huchong was saying? After some more time had passed, he heard Ling Huchong calling out, Brother Xiang, please come in and accompany Chief Ren to exit the convent. Yes, Xiang Wentian answered. With Elder Bamboo Green, they led the 16 porters going into the Wuxia convent and carried that blue sedan chair out of there. The Sun Moon sect people standing outside the convent bowed and said, respectfully welcoming the honorable sacred chief. The sedan chair was brought to its previous stopping place and was put down. Presenting Sacred Chief's gift to Shaolin Temple's abbot, Xiang Wenjian said. Two men carrying trays walked up to Feng Zhang and bowed to him, presenting the trays. Feng Zhang saw the first tray contain a very old and fragrant strand of prayer beads, while the other tray contained a handwritten ancient scripture which had Sanskrit written on the cover. The Sanskrit written was Jinggan's scripture. Feng Zhang couldn't help feeling rapt. In his research on Buddhism, there was more knowledge to gain from the Jinggan scripture. The Jinggan scripture he had studied was from the Eastern Jin, where a reverend monk translated it into Chinese. But there were some places in the scripture where it was difficult to understand, and he had always wanted to see the original Sanskrit scripture to verify, but there was nowhere to find it. When he saw the scripture right now, he was enraptured. He joined his palms and said, Amito, to receive this precious scripture, my appreciation is boundless. He extended both of his hands respectfully and lifted the Jinggan scripture. Then he lifted the prayer beads and said, Thank you, Chief Run, for your generous gift. I don't know how I can ever repay this. My humble sect's chief said that my humble sect has treated the world's heroes rudely, Xiang Wenjian replied. We are deeply ashamed of this. Great Master Feng Zhang, don't add more blames on us, and my humble sect will appreciate it very much. He leaned his head to a side and continued, Presenting Chief Run's gift to Wudang School's headmaster priest. Two men from the sect acknowledged the order and walked up to Priest Changshu. They bowed, offering the trays. Those two people hadn't come close yet, but Changshu could already see one tray was holding a longsword. When those two people came near him, he saw the longsword's scabbard was multicolored greenish copper. On the copper was inlaid two characters, Zhen Wu. Changshu gasped in surprise. When the Wudang school was first created by the Grand Master Zhang Sangfeng, he was using a sword called Zhen Wu sword, which had always been a treasure of the Wudang school. More than 80 years ago, a few elders from the Sun Moon sect raided the Mount Wudang at night and stole the precious sword, along with Zhang Sanfeng's handwritten book of Taiji manuscript. Then a ferocious fight followed. Then a ferocious fight followed, in which 3 first-class masters of Wudang died. Even though they also managed to kill 4 Sun Moon sect elders, they couldn't snatch back the manuscript and sword. This was Wudang School's biggest shame, and over the last 80 years, before each headmaster passed away, their last instructions would be to snatch the sword and manuscript back. But the Dark Wood Cliff was heavily fortified, and Wudang had tried several times to snatch them back, but they had always failed, and had instead lost a few lives on top of Dark Wood Cliff. Unexpectedly, this sword had appeared on Xianxing Peak. When he took a look at the other tray, it contained a handwritten book with its pages turned yellow a long time ago. On the cover was written the Taiji manuscript. Priest Changshu had seen plenty of Zhang Sanfeng's handwritten book on Mount Wudang, so once he saw this Taiji manuscript, he knew it was genuine. Both his hands trembled as he took the longsword. His right hand gripped the handle and lightly drew it out halfway. He felt a rush of cold air coming from the sword. He knew Grandmaster Sanfeng had a godly sword art in his late years, and he could easily not use a sword to fight. But if he was forced to fight someone, then he usually used an iron sword or a wooden sword. This Zhen Wu sword was the sword he used during his middle age to annihilate the demonical and shake the Jianhu. It was a very sharp instrument. Changshu was afraid he might be fooled by Run Wo-sing, so he flipped open the Taiji manuscript to take a look. It really was Grandmaster Sanfeng's book. He returned the manuscript onto the tray and kneeled on the ground. Then he kowtowed 8 times towards the manuscript and the sword. Standing back up, he said, Chief Run has a very broad mind for returning the remnants of Wudang Grandmaster back to Janwu Monastery. Even if my body is reduced to dust, it will be hard to repay your benevolence. Once he had taken the manuscript and the sword, his heart was so excited that both of his hands couldn't stop shaking. My humble sect's chief said my humble sect had offended Wudang School in the past and were very ashamed. Xiang Wentian said, Today everything is settled, and we hope that Wudang School will forgive us. Chief Run is being too polite, Chongshu replied. Okay, yeah, why is he being so nice, guys? What do you think is happening? Xiang Wentian then said, Presenting Sacred Chief's gift to Hangshan School's headmaster Ling Hu. Feng Zhang and Chongshu both thought, I wonder what he's going to give Headmaster Ling Hu. What kind of precious gifts are they going to be? They now saw 20 men coming up, and each of them was carrying a tray as they walked up to Ling Hu Cheng. On the trays were only gown, hat, shoes, wine pot, wine cup, teacup, and many other everyday items. Even though each of them was fine, they were clearly not some magnificent items. Only one tray held a jade flute, and another tray held an ancient chin, which were clearly treasures. But compared to the presents given to Fang Zhang and Chongshu, they were not even close in value. Ling Hu Cheng folded his hands in salute and said, Many thanks. He then ordered Yu Sao and the others to receive the gifts. Kaboom! You think something's gonna blow up? My humble sect's chief said that we've been inappropriate to come to Mount Hangshan at this time and caused a big disturbance, Xiang Wentian said. For all the Shitai from the Hangshan school, we're giving each a set of gowns and a longsword. For all the secular martial sisters, we're giving each a set of jewelries and a longsword. Please kindly accept them. My humble sect has also purchased 500 acres of farm at the foot of Mount Hangshan to give to Wuxia Convent. We'll take our leave now. After he said this, he folded his hands in salute to Feng Zhang, Chongshu, and Ling Hu Cheng, then turned around to walk away. Mr. Xiang, Chongshu called out. Xiang Wentian turned around and said, smiling, What is the priest's order? We're indebted to your noble sex's chief's generosity and have received rewards without doing anything, so we don't feel comfortable, Chongshu said. I don't know. He just said these words when he couldn't say any more. He wanted to ask, I don't know what the idea is behind this, but at the end he couldn't say it out loud. Xiang Wentian laughed and folded his hands. The items have returned to their original owners. This is naturally right. Why is the priestess feeling uncomfortable about it? He turned around and shouted, Chief is going! The sound of music rose up and 10 elders opened up the way, while the 16 porters lifted the big blue sedan chair and started going down the peak. They were followed by the group of horn players and drum players. At the end of the line was the sect people from the different halls. They went down the peak in a line. Chongshu and Fang Zhang looked at Ling Hu Cheng and both thought, Why did Chief Run change his mind? Only you know his reasons. They couldn't gather anything from looking at Ling Hu Cheng, but he seemed to be happy and also a little sad. After they heard the Sun Moon sect walking down for a while and the music sound had ceased, the cries of long live the chief, unify the Jianghu had also stopped. With bluffs and bluster they came, and now everything was quiet. Chongshu couldn't hold back any longer, and he asked, Brother Ling Hu, Chief Run suddenly became generous. This must be because of your enormous reputation. I'm not sure. He wanted to ask, I'm not sure what you said, but he thought that if Ling Hu Cheng was willing to say it, then he'd of course tell them. But if he didn't want to say it, then asking too much would be inappropriate. That's why after saying not sure, he stopped himself. Please forgive me, seniors, Ling Hu Cheng replied. Junior has promised Chief Run. The reason for this is unsuitable to be let out for the moment, but there's no big secrets among the reasons. Seniors will know of the reasons yourself in a few days. Feng Zhang laughed aloud and replied, "Ho, ho, ho, ho. A big disaster has disappeared. This is really the good fortune of Wu Lin. Looking at Chief Run today, he doesn't have any enmity towards our orthodox sects and schools and has changed his murderous way. This is very encouraging and a happy moment." Not knowing the reason made Changshu's heart itch. Hearing what Feng Zhang said, he also felt that it was reasonable. "I'm not being overly anxious, but the Sun Moon sect is very sly and crafty. We should still be very careful. Maybe Chief Run found out that we've prepared, and he's afraid of being blown up, so he pretended to be nice today. Then when we're not on our guard, he'll do a sneak attack. According to the two of you, can this happen?" "This person is hard to predict." Feng Zhang hesitated. "We must be on our guard." Ling Huchang shook his head. "No, it won't happen." "Headmaster Ling Hu firmly believes this won't happen. Then that's very good," Changshu said, but he was actually thinking otherwise in his heart. After some time, reports from below the mountain came. The Sun Moon sect party had gone past the waist of the mountain, and the people guarding the road didn't receive the signal, so they didn't fight or explode the landmines. Changshu ordered someone to inform Qingshu, Chenggao. Imagine if they had blown up the landmines right now. Changshu ordered someone to inform Qingshu, Chenggao, and the people responsible for the 9 Dragons chair and the landmines to cut the fuses. Ling Huchang asked Feng Zhang and Changshu to enter the Wuxia convent and rest inside the Guanyin Hall. Feng Zhang perused the Sanskrit Jinggang manuscript. Changshu touched the Zhen Wu sword and studied the Taiji manuscript. His joy was undescribable, and gradually all his doubts and worries were forgotten. All of a sudden, someone from underneath the offering table said, "Ah, Ying Ying, it's you." Another person said, "Brother Chang, you. They were the voices of the Peach Valley 6 fairies. Ling Huchang gasped in surprise and jumped up from his chair. But then he heard the voices kept coming from underneath the offering table. "Brother Chang, my dad, he's passed away." "What happened? Wait, who's talking?" Oh, Ying Ying is talking. So Ying Ying is there, apparently. "Brother Chang, my dad, he's passed away." "What happened?" "That day on Mount Huashan's peak of the morning sun, not long after you went down the mountain, my dad suddenly fell down from the deity's palm. Brother Xiang and I caught him. Not long after, he stopped breathing." Then someone plotted against him." "No, Brother Xiang said he's already old and had been suffering for many years under the West Lake. For the past few years, he had been completely engrossed in suppressing the various internal energies in his body, and it has actually taken a lot of energies out of him. This time, in order to destroy the 5 mountain sword schools, his mind had been preoccupied by this. His time is up." "I never thought this would happen." "That day on the peak of the morning sun, Brother Xiang and 10 elders discussed this, and they unanimously elected me to be the Sun Moon Sect's chief." So Chief Run is actually Young Lady Run, not Mr. Run? Patrick, you did call it. Good job. Good job, you did call it. So the father, Chief Run, did die. And now Ying Ying is the chief of the Sun Moon sect. Just then, when the Peach Valley 6 fairies were fighting to sit on the 9 dragons' chair, Feng Zhang used the lion roar, backed by unsurpassed internal energy, to shake them up. Changshu was afraid they might let out the secret, so he sealed the acupoints and put them under the offering altar. Unexpectedly, these 6 people's inner energies were quite deep, but they woke up not long after and heard the dialogue between Ling Hucheng. Oh, okay. Okay, we know what happened. This is not her talking. Okay. So they are. This is the Peach Valley Six Fairies talking. This whole conversation. They're just repeating what Ying Ying and Ling Hucheng had said before, right? So they revealed the secret that the Runwal Singh had died, and that Ying Ying is now the leader of the Sun Moon sect. When Fang Zheng and Chang Shu heard Runwal Singh had died and Ying Ying had taken up the chief position, they were startled but happy at the same time. Ying Ying had given both of them precious gifts, but she had given Ling Hucheng some gown and shoes to wear, which were actually the wedding presents for their marriage. They still heard the Peach Valley Six Fairies talking one after another. Brother Chang, I've come to Mount Hangshan today to see you. If the people from the Orthodox path find out, they'll jest about it. Why is that important? You can only become bashful. No, I don't want others to know. All right, I promise you not to say anything. I ordered them to call out those cultured and kind warriors benefiting the common people. What long live the chief, unify the Jianghu, so other people wouldn't find out. I wasn't being rude to your Hangshan school and Great Master Feng Zhang and Priest Chong Shu. Don't worry about that. Great Master and Priest won't find out. Also, the Sun Moon sect and the Hangshan school, Shaolin school, Wudang school are turning from enemies into friends. I also don't want others to say that it's my idea. In Jianghu, people will definitely say that it's because of me and you is the reason. Also, the big fight was not fought, so I'll really be embarrassed. Hehe, I'm not afraid. Your skin is thick, so of course you're not afraid. The news of Dad passing away has been kept a secret by the Sun Moon sect. Other people will only know my dad has come to Mount Hangshan and talked to you and reconciled with each other. This way, my dad's reputation will be increased. When I get back to Darkwood Cliff, I'll announce the death. Right, then as son-in-law, I'll come to kowtow to him. You can come, that'll be best. That day at Mount Huashan on the peak of the morning sun, my dad has personally agreed to our marriage. But after I agree... Ling Hucheng heard the six of them were gradually revealing Ying Ying and his wedding arrangements, so he quickly shouted, Peach Valley Six Fairies, you're still not coming out. Talking nonsense under there. I'm going to peel your skin and strip off your flesh. But he still heard Trunk Fairy sighed quietly and mimicking Ying Ying's speech. But I'm still not worried about you. Dad hasn't given you the method on how to harmonize the different internal energies. Actually, even if he had imparted it to you, it's no use. Dad himself sighed. Peachtree Trunk Fairy pinched his throat, and he sounded grieved. When Fang Zhang, Chong Shu, and Ling Hucheng heard him, they couldn't help becoming sad, too. Runwal Singh was a strange warrior of this era, and even though he had done bad things all his life, it was still very sad for his life to have ended this way. Ling Hucheng's feelings towards Runwal Singh was particularly strange. Even though he detested the way Runwal Singh handled his power and his overbearing behavior, he still couldn't help admiring his ability, especially his unscrupulous and independent nature, which was quite like his own. The only difference was that he didn't have the ambition of unifying the Jianghu. At that moment, in the three people's hearts, they all thought, from time past, all the emperors, ministers, warriors, even bandits and murderers, they all die at the end. Fruit Fairy squeezed his throat and said, Brother Chong, Chong Shu felt that if they continued to talk, then Ling Hucheng would be embarrassed. He laughed and said, Peachtree, six brothers, sorry for the offense before, but enough with your talking. If you provoke Headmaster Ling Hu, he'll seal your lifelong mute acupoint. I don't think it'll be worthwhile. Peach Valley Six Fairies were greatly startled. They asked in unison, What's a lifelong mute acupoint? Once that lifelong mute acupoint is sealed, you'll be mute for the rest of your life and can't speak anymore, Chong Shu answered, but you'll still be able to eat and drink. The Peach Valley Six Fairies shouted together, Speaking is number 1, eating and drinking are number 2. The words you said just before, you mustn't say them again, Chong Shu advised. Headmaster Ling Hu, on accord of Great Master Feng Zhang and I, please don't seal their lifelong mute acupoint. Great Master Feng Zhang and I will vouch for them. The conversation between you and young Lady Ren that the six of them eavesdrop from underneath the offering altar, they won't reveal a single word of it. Flower Fairy said, Injustice! Injustice! We weren't eavesdropping. The sound entered our ears, so what can we do? You've already heard it. No one cares about anything else, Changshu said. But talking about it after hearing them, that you can't do. The six fairies said in unison, Okay, we won't say it. Root Fairy said, But Sun Moon Sect's sacred chief, those two sentences were changed. Can we say it? You can't say it, definitely not, Ling Hucheng shouted. Branch Fairy mumbled, I can't say it, then I can't say it. Only you and young Lady Ren can say it. We can't say it. Changshu pondered. Two sentences that were changed by Sun Moon Sect. Those sentences must be Long live the chief, unify the Jianghu. Young Lady Ren is the chief now, so she doesn't want to unify the Jianghu. But I wonder what they've changed to. 3 years later, oh, that's fast. Alright, time skip. 3 years later, at the Plum Manor on Mount Gu, at the West Lake of Hangzhou, bright lanterns were hung, and there was a gathering of beautifully dressed people. This day was the day Ling Hucheng and Ying Ying were to be married. At this time, Ling Hucheng had already given the Hengshan School's headmaster position to Yi Qing. Yi Qing made every effort to give it to Yi Lin, saying Yi Lin had avenged Hengshan's big enmity. For avenging their masters, she should get the headmaster position. But Yi Lin said she would never agree, and cried. When all is said and done, they followed Ling Hucheng's idea, and Yi Qing was handed the headmaster position. Ying Ying also resigned from being the Sun Moon Sect's chief, and gave it to Xiang Wentian. Even though Xiang Wentian was a stubborn person, he didn't have any ambition to annex the orthodox sects. So, over the last few years, Jianghu was peaceful. Today, many Jianghu warriors had come to the Plum Manor to congratulate them. After going through the ritual and finishing the banquet, it was time to have fun in the newlyweds' house. The crowd wanted the bride and groom to perform a swordplay. In this world, everyone knew Ling Hucheng's sword art was wonderful, and there were a lot of guests there who had not seen it yet. Ling Hucheng said, smiling, Today it'll ruin the atmosphere if we use sabers and swords. The bride and I will play a song. How about that? The crowd cheered. Ling Hucheng took a yao qin and gave Ying Ying a jade flute. Ying Ying didn't lift her red cover and extended her delicate hand to take the jade flute. Right, when you get married, back then, you have a red cloth over your head. Oh, the bride had it. Oh wait, both had it, right? Both the bride and groom have the red cover on their heads? Yeah. She started playing a song with Ling Hucheng. The tune they were playing was The Smiling Proud Wanderer. In these 3 years, Ling Hucheng was under Ying Ying's guidance in studying the qin, and he was already quite good in playing this tune. Ling Hucheng remembered of that day outside of Hengshan City, out in the wilderness. He listened to the Hengshan school Liu Chengfeng and the Sun Moon Sect elder Chu Yang playing this flute. The two of them were very friendly, even though they were from different sects, and both of them were finally killed. Only the bride wears it? Okay. So only the bride wears the red cover. Today, he himself had married Ying Ying, and no sect would stop them. Compared to the people who composed this tune, he was more fortunate. He also thought when Liu and Chu composed this tune together, they must have been doing it because of their sects' separation and to erase the years of enmity between the sects. This time, the tune was being played by husband and wife. At last, their wishes had been fulfilled, as he thought, till here The chin and flute became even more harmonious. Most of the people in the crowd didn't understand music, but they were very pleased to hear it. When the song was finished, they all clapped and cheered, and happily led the married couple to the newlywed room. Once the couple were in the room, they closed the door. Suddenly, a sad Hu Chin sound rose from outside the wall. Ling Hu Chong happily said, "Martial Uncle Mo Da." "Don't make any noise," Ying Ying whispered. Oh yay, Mo Da is still alive. They heard the Hu Chin sound playing the tune Courtship softly, but the mournful air of the song could be felt from start to finish. Ling Hu Chong was feeling very happy as he thought, "Martial Uncle Mo Da didn't die. Today he's come to play this tune to congratulate Ying Ying and I getting married." The Hu Chin sound gradually went far away until it finally couldn't be heard anymore. Ling Hu Chong turned around and gently lifted up Ying Ying's red face cover. Ying Ying smiled captivatingly, with the red candles shining on her face. She looked beautiful as jade. She suddenly shouted, "Come out!" Ling Hu Chong was perplexed. He thought, "What come out?" Ying Ying laughed and shouted, "Still not coming out? I'm going to drench you." From under the bed, 6 people came out. They were the Peach Valley 6 fairies. Oh my god, they're hiding in the bedroom? That is not cool, guys. They were hiding underneath the bed to hear the newlyweds' conversation. When they'd go back to the hall and relate to the crowd what the newlyweds were talking about. Then they'd go back to the hall and relate to the crowd what the newlyweds were talking about. Ling Hu Chong's mind was already drunk, so he didn't realize anything. Ying Ying was still careful, and she was able to hear their breathing under the bed. Ling Hu Chong laughed aloud and said, "Six Peach brothers, I almost got trapped by your ambush." The 6 fairies walked out of the room and started shouting, "Long live husband and wife forever! Long live husband and wife forever!" Changshu was at the flower hall, chatting to Feng Zheng. When he heard the cries of the Peach Valley 6 fairies, he couldn't help smiling. They had been keeping this a secret for 3 years, and it was finally revealed now. This was the oath that Ling Hu Chong and Ying Ying had sworn to that day in the Guanyin Hall, the oath that came from changing the 2 sentences of the Sun Moon sect. 4 months later, another time skip. 4 months later, it was evening during the springtime. Grass was long and flowers were blossoming. Ling Hu Chong and Ying Ying were newlyweds, holding hands as they went to Mount Huashan. Ling Hu Chong wanted to bring his wife to pay his respect to Grand Marshal Uncle Feng Qingyang and to kowtow to him for teaching him the sword art. But they had been going around Mount Huashan's 5 peaks and 3 mountain ranges, searched every dell, but they didn't find a single trace of Feng Qingyang's track. Ling Hu Chong was displeased. Grand Marshal Uncle is a highly skillful person who's out of this world, like a divine dragon that we can only see its head, but unable to see its tail. So we don't know where he's gone to, Ying Ying said. Ling Hu Chong sighed. Grand Marshal Uncle definitely has a godly sword art. His internal energy cultivation can be regarded as unmatched in this world. In the last 3.5 years, I've been practicing the inner energy he imparted to me. Those different types of energies are almost all gone. Then we can thank Shaolin Temple Great Master Feng Zheng, Ying Ying replied. Since we can't find Grand Marshal Uncle Feng, we'll go to Shaolin Temple tomorrow and kowtow to Great Master Feng Zheng to thank him. Great Master Feng Zheng brought the divine martial art and guided me in learning it, so he's like a half-master to me. We should give thanks to him. Ying Ying pursed her lips, smiling. Brother Chong, you still don't understand. That skill you learned, it's the Shaolin School's tendon-altering sutra, inner energy. Ah, Ling Hu Chong gasped and jumped up. It's the tendon-altering sutra? It's the Tendon Altering Sutra? How do you know? So the Tendon Altering Sutra is like it's like the top martial arts of the the Shaolin school, right? Like remember a long time ago, the abbot was saying that he would teach Ling Hu Chang this, and it would cure his it would cure the problem with his what do you call it? It would cure the problem with his energy sucking technique, right? So a long time ago, the when he was like almost dead, um the abbot Feng Zhang said that he would teach him this tendon altering sutra if Ling Hu Chang joins the school, right? If Ling Hu Chang joins the Shaolin school. If not, then he can't teach him. But apparently it looks like he did teach him secretly, right? Sorry, I can't talk. Been reading too much. That day I heard you said that the inner energy was given orally by Grand Marshal Uncle Feng to Peach Valley 6 fairies for them to bring to Great Master Feng Zhang, Ying Ying explained. I had my doubts on this. That internal energy method is so profound and mysterious that when you're practicing it, nothing can go wrong in the slightest. If something goes wrong, then you'll fire deviate and lose your life. How is it possible to ask the Peach Valley 6 fairies to bring this and pass it on orally? The Peach Valley 6 fairies speak in a tangle, and how can they talk so clearly? Even though Great Master Feng Zhang said it, it's likely that Grand Marshal Uncle Feng forced them to memorize it. It's still very dangerous. Later on, I asked these 6 brothers, and they all said it's true. But when I told them to recite a few sentences, one said they've forgotten it long ago. One said they can only tell Monk Feng Zhang and can't tell other people. The 6 of them said a few more words, but their words don't match head to tail, and there were hundreds of discrepancies. Later, they revealed this by denying it. They said in order for Great Master Feng Zhang to save your life, he didn't want you to know, and pretended Grand Marshal Uncle Feng was the one who imparted this martial art. If you asked them about it, he asked them to keep it a secret. Yeah, so Feng Zhang pretended that the 6 fairies learned that martial arts from Feng Qingyang, right, and then recited it to him. So he recited it back to Ling Hu Chang, but that's not what happened, right? Ling Hu Chang's mouth gaped wide open, and he didn't make any noise for a long time. Ying Ying continued, but Grand Marshal Uncle Feng calling them was true. But he called them to tell Great Master Feng Zhang that the Sun Moon sect was going to attack Hangshan, and he asked Shaolin and Wudang schools to help. You're so bad, Ling Hu Chang complained. You knew about this a long time ago, but you only said it today? Ying Ying smiled. That day in Shaolin Temple, you were very stubborn. Great Master Feng Zhang wanted you to join Shaolin and make him your master. Then he'd impart to you the Tendon Altering Sutra, but you said you wouldn't agree. You brushed him away and walked out the door. If Great Master Feng Zhang again mentioned this matter of imparting you with Tendon Altering Sutra, then he's afraid your old stubbornness would come out again, rather dying than learn it. Wouldn't that be a waste? That's why he was forced to use Grand Marshal Uncle Feng's name to make you think it was Huashan School's inner energy method, and you'd learn it willingly. Ah, Ling Hu Chang understood now. I know. You didn't want to tell me this because you're also afraid I'll become stubborn and suddenly stop learning it. Since you now since now you know the various inner energies in my body are almost gone, you told me everything. Ying Ying again pursed her lips, smiling. Your stubbornness, everyone knows it mustn't be provoked. Ling Hu Chang let out a long sigh and pulled on her hand. Ying Ying, back then you gave up your life at Shaolin Temple, so Great Master Feng Zhang would impart me with Tendon Altering Sutra. Even though you didn't die, Great Master Feng Zhang had already agreed to you to do this. He's a senior in Wulin, and his words carry a lot of weight. So finally, he gave me this divine martial art. This was the martial art that you used your life to trade with. Even if I don't care whether I live or die, how can I not care about you and stop practicing? Ying Ying whispered, I also thought of this before, but I was still afraid. We'll go down the mountain tomorrow and go to Shaolin Temple. Since I've already learned the Tendon Altering Sutra, it's best if I go to Shaolin Temple and become a monk. Ying Ying knew he was joking. A wild monk like you, the big temples won't accept, and the little temples don't want you. Shaolin Temple's rules and commandments are very strict. A monk who drinks wine and eats meat like you, they'll drive out of here within half a day. They walked hand in hand, chatting leisurely. Ling Hucheng saw Ying Ying was continuously looking left and right, looking like she was looking for something. What are you looking for? Ling Hucheng asked. Not telling. You'll know when we find it. This time coming up to Mount Huashan, we didn't manage to pay our respects to Grand Marshal Uncle Feng, and it's a regret. But if we also can't see that person, it'll be a pity. Ling Hucheng was confused. We're seeing another person? Who is it? Ying Ying smiled and didn't answer. She said, You locked Lin Pingzhi up in that jail underneath Plum Manor. It's actually a brilliant idea. You promised your little martial sister to take care of Lin Pingzhi for the rest of his life. While he's inside that jail, he has food to eat, clothes to wear, and no one can harm him. It's really looking after him for the rest of his life. I've also given your other friend a special treatment. Ah, looks like Lin Pingzhi is locked up underneath that jail. Like the same jail that Run Wo Sing was locked up in. Ling Hucheng was even more perplexed. He thought, my other friend? Who's he? He knew his wife's behavior was often outside people's expectations. Since she wasn't willing to say it, then there was no use asking. That night, they stayed in Ling Hucheng's old room and drank wine. Even though Ling Hucheng was looking at his lovable wife, he still thought of many past events and couldn't help feeling sad. After drinking more than 10 cups of wine, he was rather intoxicated. Ying Ying suddenly looked happy and put down the wine cup. She whispered, I think he's coming. Let's have a look. Ling Hucheng heard the sound of monkeys' cries coming from the mountain in front. He didn't know who Ying Ying was talking about, but he followed her out of the room. Ying Ying followed the monkey's cry and walked quickly towards the mountainside in front. Ling Hucheng followed behind her. Under the moonlight, he saw 7 to 8 monkeys gathered. There were a lot of monkeys on Mount Huashan. Ling Hucheng didn't know what was going on, but surprisingly, he saw a person surrounded by those monkeys. Squinting his eyes, he saw that person was Lao de Noir. The delight and anger mixed together inside him. He turned around, wanting to take a sword from inside the room. Ying Ying pulled his arm and whispered, We'll go closer and see clearer. They went 100 feet closer and saw Lao de Noir was held between 2 enormous monkeys and was being dragged around here and there by them. He wasn't in control of his body at all. The martial art he had learned was all useless to resist against those 2 big monkeys. Ling Hucheng was perplexed. What happened to him? Have a look, I'll tell you slowly, said a smiling Ying Ying. The monkeys were impatient, jumping up and down, and there wasn't a moment of respite at all. Lao de Noir was being pulled to the left and right, and he occasionally let out a roar, which prompted the 2 monkeys to scratch his face. At this time, Ling Hucheng had finally understood what was going on. Lao de Noir's right hand and right side were linked to the monkey on the left, while his left hand and left side were linked to the monkey on the right. It was obvious he had been shackled by iron manacles. He had understood most of it, and he asked, You did this? What do you think? You destroyed Lao de Noir's martial art? No, he did it himself to atone for his sin. When the monkeys heard the sound of people speaking, they became noisy and took Lao de Noir away with them to go back into the mountain. It'll be funny if Lin Pingzhi writes the evil resisting sword manuscript on the jail bed, like Ren Wo-sing did. And then someone finds it and the cycle continues. Yep. That'll be Smiling Proud Wanderer Part 2. Ling Hucheng wanted to kill Lao Dunhua in the beginning to take a revenge for Lu Dayou, but seeing him suffering so much, to behead him with a sword was natural, but his heart felt it was be too fast, so he thought, this traitor has been very sly, and his evil is much higher than martial brother Lin. I should let him suffer more. Then he said, so these last few days you've been looking for him to give me a look. That day when my father came to the peak of the morning sun, that bastard came offering his flattery. He said he'd obtained the sword manual for the evil resisting sword art, and that he'd come to present it to Daddy. Dad asked him what for, and he said he wanted to become one of the elders for the Sun Moon sect. Dad didn't have any free time to talk to him, so he told someone to look after him. Later, Dad passed away, and everyone was busy, so no one cared about him, and we just took him to the Darkwood Cliff. After around 10 days, I thought about this again, and told him to come ask him some questions. I found out he learned the evil resisting sword art by himself, and accidentally crippled his martial art instead. This person is your sixth martial brother's murderer, and since your sixth martial brother loved monkeys, I told people to find 2 monkeys and lock him up with them and set him free on Mount Huashan. When she said till here, she gripped Ling Hucheng's wrist and continued, never thought that I, Ren Ying, would also be finally locked up with a big monkey and never part ever again. She smiled tenderly, her smile soft and loving. The end. Yay! Yay, we're done. That was a season finale, guys. Almost a year and a half of reading this book. Did you guys like it? It's a really good story. Oh no, you have to go. Bye. Bye. It's a really long story, but it's a good story. I love Ling Hucheng, the character. Like I saw the Chinese series. It was translated to Vietnamese, but I saw the Chinese series a long time ago when I was a kid. Yeah, and I love the story. And then I read a Vietnamese translation of it. So we get a peaceful and happy ending. Yay. Yeah. I like it because like there's no pure good or pure evil characters, right? Maybe some of them. But there's no like there's no good side and bad side, right? They're all gray, right? So the good side has bad people and the bad side has good people. People are people, and there's no like pure good or bad person. You just got here? What is this? You just got we're finishing up, dude. You came at the very, very end. But yeah. Okay. So we're done with this one. We're gonna start the next one next week on Monday. On Monday at 6 o'clock Pacific time. Okay. So we're changing the day from Sunday to Monday. We're gonna have another book. The other book is a lot longer than this one, believe it or not. So it's gonna be an even longer book, but it's a big old epic story. So it'll be cool. Doom, 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 doom. Do you get a finale song? No. No, you don't. You have to follow the rules, okay? Follow the rules and catch me not knowing the definition of a word. Oh, I forgot my drink. No problem. Oof. You're glad you'll be able to start at the beginning this time? Where did you start? You want me to write fan fiction? I don't know about that. All right. Cheers. All right. The next story will be just as epic, okay? Will be just as epic and even longer than this one. Hi guys, thanks for joining. Thanks for listening to me read this entire story. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you next week, okay? On Monday at 6 o'clock Pacific. All right, see you guys. Thanks for joining. Bye. Love you.